You're now listening to D&D live on demand. What up, world? Welcome back to another episode of Breaking Command, a D&D football podcast. Of course, you got your man, you got DH, and as always, we got my brother from another in the building, D-Mitty. D-Mitty, what's up, bro?
Man, feeling good, feeling great. How you been doing, King?
Man, I'm feeling good, man. We got a preseason win under our belt. Normally I don't be keeping track of the wins or losses in preseason, but I guess we have to, you know what I mean? Because everything we do is gonna be scrutinized. So, when they play, we gonna talk about it. We gotta break it down, but that's why we here, bro. We getting season 2 off to a roll, man. Yeah.
This is my fault.
Go ahead.
It's just for me when it comes to preseason. I enjoy it. I'm the fan that loves watching the third string. I love seeing the guys give that effort because it's still football at the end of the day.
Absolutely. And because this is a football podcast, we was like, maybe we should get somebody that played the game to come on this episode and kind of talk to us about some football. So we're going to bring on our guest, okay? The West Texas native, okay? I like to call him Triple A, all right? We got my man, former Washington Commanders, Redskins football team commander. You know the history. We're going to bring on AAA, Mr. Anthony Armstrong, the host of the Believe Commanders podcast. AAA, what's up, man?
Man, what is going on? How y'all doing? I love the intro, the energy. It's such a late hour in the day. Y'all still got it going, man. Y'all still up and me tired myself. But I'm gonna turn up for y'all though. We're gonna have fun.
That's what we do, man. We love it, man. And because you're here and because you're going to turn up with us, we want the fans to turn up. So we want you to do us a favor, okay? Make sure you like, subscribe, and share with a friend. And if you feel so inclined to do so, you can leave us a 5-star review and you can get your 5 seconds of fame. That's it. That's all. Of course, we love and appreciate everybody checking in, tuning in. If you're watching this on Twitter, what's up? You ain't watching it live because we ain't going live. I like to post-produce, baby. We don't do that. Hey, but we appreciate everybody for checking in and tuning in. We got AAA, Mr. Anthony Armstrong in the building. First, before we get into anything, Anthony, thank you for being on, man. What is up with you right now, man? How's everything going for you post-football? You got the Believe Commanders podcast. Like, what's going on with you right now, man?
Man, everything is good, man. Been 10 years since I first got out there with the Redskins and shoot. Now, man, I've been doing real estate for 9 years, been living in this house for 10 years, shoot. And the real estate game is fun, get to be, creative with that. And now we just, growing a family and fixing up stuff around the house. So I love getting back in touch with the fans and the folks up there in the DMV with the Believing Commanders podcast. And that's been a lot of fun just to reconnect with them, get connected to the organization again, because I think it's a good time to be connected with those folks.
No, absolutely, man. And I check it out. I see it posted, and I'm like, I love to get the alumni perspective, right? Because you guys know football. I mean, you played the game, you're close to the game, and you know how some of these things are supposed to work. So when we talk about growth and development, coming from a guy like you who was in the league, had a few stops at a couple of different places, you know how different organizations work, and you know what it takes to kind of move up on the roster and things like that. So it's always good to get a vet in here to give us some perspective. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, man. I love to share that, and give my perspective out there. And because there are a lot of good content creators, a lot of people who put out good information, but I figured, hey, I might as well put something out there too and give my 2 cents and just not saying my stuff is right, but it's my opinion and it comes from a certain viewpoint. So you can take it for how you take it with a grain of salt, but I figured I might as well throw my name in the hat.
Hey, man, because you on the field, man, I mean, you brought the electricity like I was telling you before, man. I mean, I think that you were one of those players that you wore your emotions on your sleeve, or you at least, put your all out there on the field. And I seen it when, being a fan, like I said, at the height of my fandom, you brought electricity to the field. You were one of those receivers that, I mean, for me, I hated to see you go and was glad to see you come, to the team because I knew what you brought coming from, a guy who was like an undrafted free agent, you know what I mean, doing the arena league and stuff like that. So I really appreciate those kind of players that come to the team and bring that kind of energy.
Man, every snap. Because once I first got into the league in '08, my draft was '05. So if y'all remember the names like Roddy White, he was the top receiver taken. Um, I had a workout with Atlanta and I failed my physical. And when I failed that physical, it was because I had an injury. I played the last month of my senior year with like a fractured wrist and a torn ligament in my hand. So missed my draft. I had to go through, playing in Odessa, Texas for $200 a game and 2 years with the Dallas Desperados. So, get to the Dolphins in '08 and you get to that first PA meeting, they kind of break down benefits and how things work. I'm like, man, I'm already 26. I need to hurry up and play because I really ain't got to about 30 and they're going to try to get me up out of here. So I relished every moment on the field. Like I knew, I worked that hard to get up there. I wasn't going to try to let that opportunity slip out of my hand. So regardless of the type of coaching that you get, you know what I mean, like I know where I'm trying to be. This is just a part of it right now. um and every moment on the field, man, was special. And looking back at it, man, I'm glad to have been able to have done that and played that game.
Now, Anthony, let me ask you, man. You got here in 2010, that first year with Washington. When you were brought in, like, what was your role intentionally, like in the beginning? Like, what was it supposed to be? And you turned out almost getting 1,000 yards, receiving with a lot of targets and a lot of receptions. So when you were brought in initially, what was kind of like, what did they sell you? Like, what did they tell you gonna do when you got here?
They just said you got a job on the practice squad. When I got there in '09, like it was just practice squad spot. And y'all get there, you're learning from Antoine Randall and Santana Moss and looking across from D'Angelo Hall and Carlos Rogers in my first day of practice. So I was a little starstruck, a little nervous. But man, it was just practice squad. It was just an opportunity to be on a team and really at the end of that year, teams can pick you up off of practice squads, right? So Jacksonville had already worked me out and was trying to get me on their future roster, and they tried to pull me from Washington. They tried to activate me for their last game, and it was going to be against Cleveland. And so, it's a bump up in pay, but they just essentially just wanted my rights for the off season to work with me, and I turned them down. I turned them down with the opportunity to stay with a new GM in Bruce Allen, and not the most popular guy in the DMV, but in that situation, it was going to be a new GM, a new head coach, a new offensive coordinator. They had no ties to anybody that was already there, and I've always felt that if I got in the room, if I got up there, I could impress and I could showcase what I could do. It's difficult whenever you're a 27-year-old, rookie, and you got 22 and 23-year-old draft picks that coaches are tied to. They ain't finna let the old dude get out there and run. Like I had to make noise every time. So whenever we got Donovan McNabb, I said I needed to be his Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah.
He needs to be able to throw me the rock like he was throwing it to Deshaun up there in Philly. And we made a connection in just in the off-season workouts. It was just like every day, hey, throwing it deep, I'm getting it. Throwing it deep, I'm getting one. And it like I never like went over there and pounded my fist on the table like, man, throw me the rock. But it was just one of those things like every time you throw this dude the ball, like I'm gonna catch it. And then you just build that trust and shoot. Between that and then training camp and you talk about preseason games, you're just making plays in the preseason, and then you start to see responsibilities build up and they give you more to see how much you can handle. And I was able to handle all of that, playing special teams and then working to a starting role on offense. Um, it just, I mean, honestly, if I made it to the league at 22, I'd have been out by like 22, 24, 25. Easy. I'd have been out. I don't think I would have had the full mentality, the skills as a receiver. That stuff wasn't there. I learned that stuff, like honed it along the way, because in Odessa, I'm playing with guys like Darren Graham. He went to University of Indiana. He's a hellified route runner. And then you get and Joel Babb, and then you get to Dallas, and you got Will Pettis, probably the greatest football player I've ever been around. Period. You got him, you got Jermaine Jones on defense that you got. I'm like, his dude stays in his back pedal the whole time. So I had to learn how to affect those guys and find ways to get open. And you can't just run fast, right? So it was a whole learning process, and it all built up to that time in Washington to, come to fruition, and all that stuff helped me have success up there.
So I got a question, and I don't know if you recall, you were in one of the Twitter Spaces right after the new ownership came in, and my question to you was about the impact of your teammates, and was there any teammates that impacted you to, I guess, become friends on or off the field? Like, who were those guys? And you said Santana Moss, as you were speaking earlier, and you brought up D Hall and what have you. I want to marry that with what you just said as far as being out of the league at 24. Was it something that those vets gave you, maybe mentally or physically, that helped you stay longer or play a little bit longer?
Man, it was me walking in and reading the room. I'm like, okay, if I look at the roster, this guy's been in the league 10 years. He's been in the league 15 years. This guy, what gives them such longevity? So I just started doing what they did, literally. Like Santana had a masseuse that he went to twice a week. I went to him twice. Went to her twice a week. He had a chiropractor that was twice a week. I went to the same chiropractor twice a week. He had a soft tissue doctor. I went to him. Like everything he did, because you saw it in the Netflix quarterback special, Kirk Cousins talking about it. Like Santana said, he said, just because you're playing football doesn't mean that your body has to hurt. And I never thought about that. It just used to always be like, oh, I'm in the middle of the season. I'm limping. I'm going to be sore until January. Shoot, not really. No, not if you have the right team around you. Not if you have the right, group of people that can help pour into your body, and you invest in that. So at 22 years old, it'd have been go to practice, go to McDonald's and go play the game. Yeah, I'll watch film, but like that's probably what you're gonna get out of me for at that time in my life. So as I grew older, you start to learn, shoot, man, this is a job. This is what I need to do to stay at my best each and every week. And so I just learned from them, saw what they did, and followed. What was London doing? Getting the cold tub, hot tub 3 times before practice. Okay, bet I'm gonna do that. Right? Like they're here for a reason, and then frankly, on some situations, it would be don't do what they did. Whatever they did, don't do that.
Absolutely.
There's that it just be like that sometimes.
Absolutely. Want to remind everybody you are listening to the Breaking Command podcast, a DND football podcast. We got our guest Anthony Armstrong in the building, who's talking about his career in the NFL and post life. And before we get into the week 1 preseason game, I kind of wanted to marry a topic in. You mentioned relationships earlier, right? So you talked about the relationships when you got here, trying to build those relationships with the other players, and then let's talk about the post relationships after leaving the league. The alumni experience here previously, before the new ownership change, and even since. Can you kind of go into detail like what that alumni experience has kind of been with the Washington organizations and their previous players?
Man, I can tell you it's night and day difference. And right now I can say they're doing things the right way. They have embraced the former player. And frankly, in the past, I never would have felt, I never knew that we'd be welcome to come back and come take tours, right? So this past Christmas, I took my family up to the facility and was able to get a tour. And I said to the guy, I was like, I don't think I would have been able to do this a year or two ago. And he was like, you're probably right. That it just wasn't something that was really ever a thing. And just recently they had Legends Day at training camp, and a lot of guys, some people flew in. I know Mike Sellers came up. Fred Davis was there. Shoot, KD showed up. So like it was a hell of a day to get to see training camp and be back at the facility and be welcome there. And it was all good vibes, man. Everybody was happy. Fans were happy. So it's a much better experience now, and you could tell that they're trying to do things the right way. And I have to give some credit to Ron Rivera, because he's done a lot of good things. We get hung up on the records,
Yes.
And as you should, because that's essentially what it comes down to, wins and losses. But I've said on my show that just no other coach has had to go through so many things and ever had to handle so many things. Not just with his own team, like who the hell's a quarterback? Who knows? Like that's been a consistent problem. Um, but the man had cancer. He lost his mom. He has internal investigations, federal investigations. People are, don't want to go to the game because of the owner. Then you got the COVID, and it's just everything on
And
this guy's plate.
Anthony, I have been telling guys, I judge Ron Rivera differently. I just have been through this whole process. I judge him differently because of the things that he's had to deal with. And I truly believe that the roster was in shambles. The coaching tree wasn't working out. Like it took some time to like kind of turn the roster over and literally change the culture of the squad.
Yeah, and but the thing I know that you can tell the tides turning. When's the last time that Washington's been able to keep more, three of their star players?
Guys
It
wanting to
had
stay,
it
wanting to resign.
wanting to stay and doing it quickly, not even trying to hold out for more bread and let me see what's no day
Except
one.
for
Let me
Arkansas.
sign.
Yeah.
Right, John Allen, Deron Payne, Terry McLaurin.
Exactly.
You got a couple more that's about to get paid, and they're gonna want to stay. You might lose one, and I feel like that's just gonna be how it ends up
Part of
happening.
doing business. That's a part of doing
It's
business.
a
Yeah,
part of the business,
true.
but you haven't had it where people want to be in the organization. And frankly, it used to be a thing. Whenever somebody left Washington, we'd be like, he finna go ball. Whoever it was. Like when Carlos Rogers left Washington and went to San Francisco, I said he finna ball. And here
Carlos
he go pick.
that Fred from San Francisco and bought a pair of hands and went and caught more interceptions in San Francisco uniform than I've ever seen him catch here.
Not only
Bro,
got hands, he got a new set of eyes too.
Yeah, he got
dog,
lazy. That's what it was.
it was a thing where it was just like, man, you hate to see somebody get cut or traded, but you like this dude finna go ball. Where whoever left Washington, like they finna go ball. And it was really weird how that happened, but it I said this before. The previous ownership, you don't really realize you in a bad relationship until you out of it and somebody else treats you a little bit better. You know what I mean? Because like I've always said, like I'm like, man, this is just the league. Like that's just how this building was. Like I don't, I've only been to so many, and this is all I've known. But then when you go get welcomed back to training camp by the new group and how they got things going over there, now you're like, well, shoot, maybe this is how it's supposed to be. Maybe they were doing us a little bit dirty, here and there. So, but I mean, I'm not, but on the same breath, I have to always say this. I'm definitely appreciative of being able to play. So I'm thankful, to the Snyders for signing some checks for me and allowing me to live that dream. And
Yeah.
like it was just a part of life, and that's a part of my life, and my experiences were different than others. But it's all about perspective.
Speaking of Dan Snyder, though, you also said something in that space that I recall. It was a moment in the game. I forget the game, but you were sitting on the sidelines, and basically his comment, I'm paraphrasing, was, Is this not fun to you?"
Oh yeah, yeah. It was at a training camp practice, and I
Oh,
was I was injured, and so I hadn't been cleared to go back with my AC separation, my shoulder separation, and I was on the sideline. I yawned. I'm about 30 yards away from everything, and I yawned, and he's like, not interesting enough for you, Armstrong, and I'm like, oh no, man, you know what I mean. I'd rather be out there. Da da da. That's kind of how I was feeling, but I was like, absolutely not. Hell, I'd rather be playing, man. Like, I don't want to stand over here on the sideline. I want to be involved. I want to, get in there and I want to run routes. I want to do what I'm, paid to do, not sit over here and view from the sideline because you don't make the team if you're on the sideline too long.
Right. And it's funny and like okay, forget the timeline of how we're just gonna talk about how we want to because it's our podcast. I mean, whatever. I had a whole like
Absolutely.
literally, I had a whole we're gonna get to it. But I mean, it's cool. I mean, how often do you get a former player on the podcast? So you gotta just roll with the punches, man. We gotta adjust. You know what I'm saying? So Anthony, I'm curious because everybody as of late has had like a Snyder encounter type story, right?
Mhm.
where, and everybody's kind of had like the same experience, other than like maybe a few different people. Everybody say he's kind of just, he just don't give off good vibes like when you're around him. Like it's always, I always feel like he's just uncomfortable. And I kind of, and because I don't know him personally, I kind of aching that too. I think everybody knows somebody that's just feel uncomfortable, or just, you know what I mean? Somebody that's just don't like when they come around, like the vibe go down, or they just don't know how to fit in. You know, did you ever get those types of feelings or experience around? I mean, granted, he's the owner of the team, he's signing the
Yeah.
checks, so everybody's, want to be on their best behavior and stuff. But like,
Yeah.
did he ever just like? Did he ever come around just like be one of the guys? Like, you know what I mean? Just, you know what I mean? Did that ever happen? If I'm making sense with my question.
Yeah, I think I'm following you. I can say I've never had like a negative interaction with him, right? Like, you know, I feel like he was such a fan of the team that like he was kind of wanted to be one of the boys. You know what I mean? He's just like, yeah, I like the team and I like the players, but I was kind of way down the payroll. I wasn't getting, I didn't have a cell phone number. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it wasn't one of them where he's like coming through hollering at me in the locker room, like, "What's up, Armstrong? I want to make sure I speak." You know what I mean? Like I didn't know him in that at that level. Those are people who were much more well much more well compensated. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Bigger paychecks, bigger salaries. They spoke with him more. I mean, you saw Albert Hainsworth had his comments and stuff, and I mean, I'm like, you know what? Hey, man wrote me $100 million check. Hell, I'd feel a certain way too, right? But that's his experience,
But
right? That's his
the crap with
experience.
the boys like that, that's that's something I ain't like that. Like you can have an experience with Snyder and not take a crap on your other teammates like that. You know what I'm saying? Like for their
Man,
with them. You know what I
I
mean?
I don't know. I don't think. I think everybody was kind of mad at Albert, in the locker room and outside the locker room, and I don't know. I'd love to talk with him about that just to kind of see what went down personally. But because
Hey,
I ain't mad at him. I mean, hey, that's what you do. That was your thing. I'm trying to make this team. I don't know what the hell you doing. I'm trying to make this roster.
hey, look, if you need me to I send a DM to him like, bro, let's have a conversation.
Don't do it yet because I ain't ready.
Hey, look, you let me know you get ready
Get a
because
couple questions together
I
first.
had to go live on that one. I said I don't go live, but I go live on that one. I ain't gonna miss them views on that one. You better believe.
Yeah, man. It ain't gonna be no drama. It's just gonna be a conversation. That's all. I just want to talk to you.
It's a conversation. We talking with former Washington wide receiver Anthony Armstrong in the building, and he's here giving us his previous experience. But we want to talk about some present day situations going on with the Washington Commanders, and we're gonna go back to the top of the program like we were supposed to, and talk about this Week 1 preseason victory over Cleveland. The Commanders beat the Browns 17-15 in the first showing of this new Commanders roster with Sam Howell at the helm, the Tar Heel. You better believe it. So I'm curious to get your first impressions on the game, Anthony. What you saw, what you may would have liked to have seen. Just tell me how you feel about the game.
First impressions of the game. Overall, I'm happy with obviously the end result, getting a W. Them first two drives on offense, I was like, ooh, I don't know now. This ain't what we signed up for. But I think things settled down quickly. And I have to go back and look again. That second unit with Jacoby, they looked really good. They looked really good. Um, I feel like you got a good solid five receivers right now, and I think you could write those guys' names in Sharpie. The top three, and then Diami and Pringle. That's your five, and then you just got to see which other receivers are going to make noise on special teams, or can they make enough noise on offense where they get forced into playing special teams, because it's gonna be one of them other ways. And I think there's a lot of depth on the defensive line.
So
There is a lot of depth, and I mentioned earlier you may have to lose somebody. At the end of this, whenever everybody's getting signed and contracts are offered, even though there are ways that you could potentially keep everybody. I just talked to a guy on my show, J.I. Halsell. So go check out that episode, most recent episode. We talk about keeping all the Washington players. But when you got guys that can eat and get to the quarterback that are your 2 and your 3 and further down the depth chart, so they're gonna roll the dice and say, okay, we're gonna try to roll with these young guys plus one of these other guys. And it was favorable to see that. And I gotta say, I gotta give love to 13. I loved that he threw his shoulder in there and silenced all of the people saying he needed to drink a protein shake and try to put on some pounds. So you don't play ball in the SEC and not come out physical. So I ain't worried about that 160 some odd
Say
pounds.
if they can't poke holes in your game, they poke holes in your frame.
Hey,
So,
that's what you see. Boom.
let's say I like that Smoot brought that to the camp. But I want to go back to the receiver part. I'm a fan of De'Ami Brown, and I'm saying that live. Was a fan of his with Sam Howell in North Carolina. I love the fact that he came to Washington. I met him personally once, and I told him, I was like, man, I honestly thought we were gonna go quarterback the round we got you, but I'm glad we got you. But I say all that to say this: for him to be one of the guys you see as the five on that that receiving roster, what does he bring in your mindset to this team offensively in this EB scheme?
Speed. Speed. Him and Pringle are speed. And if if you look at the Chiefs when they had Tyreek Hill, Tyreek was taking the top off, and if the if the corners were slipping, Mahomes was going to drop that thing down there, and Sam Howell can throw the deep ball. But then conversely, whenever Tyreek's taking 2 and 3 people with him, the intermediate's wide open, and then that's when Logan Thomas and Cole Turner and Chu Jahan and those other guys get to eat. They get to make their hay when the top is taken off. So having 2 guys that have some heat, you can't really circle and say, oh, De'Ami's in the game. Hey, back up. I'll give you a story. 2010, obviously, I had the good season, third in the league in rack. The second year, 2011, I remember stepping on the field against the Patriots. And when I got on the field, they would point out 13, 13, 13, and they would back up 25 yards. So they knew what I was in the game for. And frankly, that year, the only time I ran a route was to flush something out. And they were not going to get beat deep. So if they're going to take that away, and you know that you only have one guy that can do it, now you got to worry about Pringle. You got 2 guys that can take some heat. Not to mention Terry, right? Terry can still take the top off. Jahan can do that as well. But I think those 2 guys are going to be so much more dangerous in the intermediate this year. The De'Ami's speed is something that you can't coach, and he's got a connection with the quarterback. So as long as those 2 things show up and he keeps making plays in practice in these preseason games, he'll be a strong 4. And I still got to see how Curtis Samuel is playing, but there's just weird inclination that if Pringle and De'Ami are just really eating, they may have to move on from Curtis. I'm not calling for it. I could see how like a Kaz Allen or somebody else down the further, Kemp, if those guys start making some noise, and you're like, well, man, maybe we need to try to keep these 2 and then run De'Ami as a 3, and how does that make the offense look? And this and where's AG gonna fit? So I went way off of the question you gave me, but I think that those are if there's a big dry erase board, those are the questions that these coaches are asking. Like, what do we need? What's our best grouping? And you've got a lot of versatility
Now,
on this team, offensively and defensively.
I love your insight on that, but no, I appreciate that, man, because you gave me the answer I was looking for pretty much.
I, I
Yeah.
I think with this offense, like I think bringing EB in, I think we kind of didn't know what type of offense we were going to see or how much of a variation was going to be from Kansas City's offense. And I think we got a little look into like what he's going to do and some of the concepts. I'm just curious, is his offense going to be like how Andy Reid and Kansas City's offense is, where anybody can get it? Okay. Like, Kelsey is going to get his touches, but other than that, like everybody's going to be able to eat in this type of offense. And I'm curious if that's going to be something that's going to kind of be his trend going forward. Did you kind of get that vibe too as well, Anthony?
Man, yeah, absolutely. Just that Legends Day, I was paying attention to just the formations and the personnel groupings and where people line up. And EB, where these offenses can be very verbose and have a lot of vocabulary that go with it. they're done on purpose so that they can move you into these different particular spaces and get the matchups that you want. Like I know for certain, if you look at that game against Cleveland, there were 2 or 3 times in a row that Washington was in a 3-by-1 set, but it was receiver, receiver, receiver. And then the tight end was solo on the backside. Generally, you'd get receiver, receiver, tight end, receiver on the backside. But whenever you put this tight end on the backside, now are they going to account for it with a corner? Are they going to use a safety? If it's a corner, now you're thinking, hey, we got a big guy blocking a little guy. We can run this way, right? Now, if a linebacker bumps out over number 3 and a linebacker or a safety over Jahan, that's chicken dinner, right? Like that's easy money. So now I'm gonna throw it over here. So everywhere he puts people, if he lines AG up outside, knowing he can run a route as a receiver, are they going to match up with a linebacker? Oh, bet. Hey, you run your route over there. He's putting people in position to do what they do best and get the ball in their hands. And Sam Howell's accurate. He's crazy accurate. And you're going to see a lot of run after the catch this year.
So that's what you're saying is that EB can go allow with that 11 personnel, but all across the field, you mixing it up.
Man, you think it's always 11, but I went back and looked at the game against Kansas City against Jacksonville.
Yeah,
they were down like 2 receivers, 2 or 3 receivers. They spent a lot of time in 13 personnel, 1 receiver and 3 tight ends.
Yeah,
and they were still spread out and they were running their normal stuff. Yeah. So to have success in EB's offense, and then Ron Rivera said it, our receivers 4, 5, 6, whoever else, you need to be able to play X, Z, and Gator. You need to be able to play multiple spots because you can't just say, nope, I only play an X. Well, our X is Terry McLaurin, okay, and he's gonna play 70 snaps. Then I only play Z. Well, our Z is Jahan Dotson, and he's really it's gonna be him and Curtis, and they're gonna play 55 to 60 snaps. They ain't really coming off the field, so you better know how to play all of them, right? And that's how people are gonna have to make their hay right now. But yeah, it's a versatile roster. It's one of those things where you kind of just stay up at night just putting together different color combinations and like, ooh, let me put this with this, and I can rock this with this. And you used to make your outfits for school, you know what I mean? Like, man, I can rock this hat with this jersey. But oh nope, I'm gonna change to because I had the Ronald Curry. I loved that North Carolina blue. I had a North Carolina blue Ronald Curry. I had some white wind pants, and you remember them little slip-on and ones? I had those. I had them in the Carolina blues. Had me a little Guess watch with the light blue. Man, I was fresh at school some of them days, man. So that's the same thing you do on offense. I got this cold ass running back that can run and catch and run routes. I got Jahan who could do everything. Terry is already gonna get his attention. So like as a coach, he's sitting there just putting all the different pieces together. Same thing on defense now too. Jack Del Rio and Ron Rivera need to stay their old ass up and put some combinations together because you got a hell of a roster. Just with the tools and the players that you got, you can do a lot of dangerous things.
So you say position flex ain't just a soundbite from Ron Rivera. It's a real thing.
Dog, like you can easily say like how many DBs you gonna keep? You could almost get to 10.
Yeah.
Right? Because you did St. Juice, Fuller, Forbes, Martin, Curl, Forrest, Percy Butler just had a pick, so you're going and he all pro, so he's gonna be there. I know I'm missing names. Reeves. Who else?
Danny Johnson.
There you go. So there's a lot, and the young fella. What's that?
Wild Goose.
Wild Goose, Rashad Wild Goose. Shoot, Christian Holmes was playing good too.
Did we say
right? So
we did say Percy, right?
Say again.
We did call out Percy Butler, right?
Yeah, we did because he had that pick, right? And he's already coming off of an All-Pro Pro Bowl season, so he's gonna be there, right? So you 9, almost 10 DBs, right? I don't think they do anything else at linebacker. I think what you got is what you got.
Too deep.
Pretty much.
That's it.
Can we go back to receivers real quick? And I just want to ask a simple question. And I'm sorry if I'm going in on my boy Deion, but that's my guy. That's my guy.
Hey,
is there any route in the route tree that you think that he should either develop or make his calling card to sustain his career longer, or just in this offense and become I guess a bigger star in this offense, if I should say?
Now that's a really good question, and it's it's one of them things that I kind of think about for myself. But for him, since he's fast, stay fast as long as you can, and just continue to be a deep threat. Now, where where you're gonna get to grow is that you have the ability to run the other routes, right? Like you're gonna lead with speed, and they're gonna notice what you do, right? And then whenever you get paid, they ain't gonna just pay you just to run go routes. They're gonna pay you to run all the routes. Um, and you know, if he just focuses on that and like can make that a calling card, like people get a lot of money. I mean, Christian Kirk got a huge contract, and then he balled out even more than like anybody thought he was going to, and he was only a deep threat in Arizona, right? So with the right utilization and the right offense, and they say, hey, you're gonna get the ball, you're gonna get 10, 12 targets a game. Yeah, like you gonna learn how to run those other routes. But right now, just stay fast, and then he'll slowly start adding some other nuances to his game. We got a lot of guys that he can just watch his other receivers run routes, so he can just learn from them.
I definitely think people saw the glimpse against Tennessee last year, getting those two touchdowns, those two those two big time touchdowns. I mean, I lost my voice for those. I couldn't record after that. But I mean, just that could be his calling card, man. Them over routes, them nines, man, just breaking the back of the defense, man. Like just getting past them, and you saw it on both of those where he just got flat out speed and can burn. And it's
Yep.
just and I think with this offense is proven that you're gonna get some opportunities. But when that number is called, you got to be able to take full advantage of it, because you may only get 6, 7 targets a game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
If that.
yeah, exactly. So if you getting those targets, you got to be able to come up with the big one, and make those plays when it counts, man.
Yeah. You ain't lying, because a lot of times, like if it's a trick play and you miss it, that ain't it. That's it.
You
You
got to throw
missed
it
it.
out, throw the
We
baby out.
can't do it no more. We can't do it no more. Like you missed out on that. So that's where not taking the other routes for granted is a thing. Like you don't drop the hitch, expecting to waiting on the go route or the post route. You know what I mean? Like sometimes if they know you fast, now they're gonna make you run curls and comebacks and shallows and things like that, and just run up and tackle you. So it ends up being a little game of chess.
Of course, absolutely. Of course, we got Anthony Armstrong in the building on another episode of Breaking Command, the Breaking Command podcast, a DND football podcast. We're talking about the week 1 preseason victory over the Cleveland Browns. And I mean, we kind of been talking about this roster. I don't think it's really too much else to talk about. Like, I'm curious to see how they're going to perform this week against Baltimore in the joint practices, and going up to play Baltimore, because that's going to be a tough game. Baltimore is always going to be tough. I'm curious as to, I mean, from all you guys, y'all know what I want to see. I want to see Sam continue to flourish. But I'm curious, what is something you guys may want to see this week for this game against Baltimore?
You go
I'll,
ahead.
I'll let you go first, Anthony, because I love hearing your comments on stuff like this.
Oh,
Really, I do.
already, I appreciate it. Well, I posted my 3 things I was looking for on Twitter, and it was just not Sam Howell related, because I think everything is, people circle what Sam Howell going to do. Number one was offensive line. Just wanted to see how they're going to handle pressure. Now you got Baltimore, and they're going to get exotic, and they got outside backers and so many combinations of what they can do. It's still preseason, but they're trying to get ready, regular season ready. So offensive line, you got to see how you're going to handle pressure, picking up blitzes. I think Sam's going to do fine getting the ball out of his hands. Still want to see how AG is going to get utilized. I know we mentioned position flexibility, being able to line up in different places. One side of it, you don't want to show too much as EB. You don't want to get everybody all in your bag early, but you do have to practice those things in games, and you have to get out there and put those things on film so you can actually coach off of it. I think my other one had to do with the defense, Chase Young and the defensive line. I think they showed up well this last game, but in Baltimore, I want to see how the secondary holds up it really is a whole new offense in Baltimore, but it's not really the physicality. I just want to see how they step up if they improve their play from this first game. I think you're going to see more runs than you did against Cleveland. Um, so how does the defense respond in game 2? How do they grow?
D
Uh,
Mitty, what you got?
and for me, I think the end off way the lead off where he ended is to me the defense. I mean, I want to see what the second wave of that D line is going to look like. I want to see what the back end of that DB roster going to look like. 'Cause just like he was saying, you can really go 10 deep, but are are they going to show it against the Renees of the world? Are they going to be able to bring bring it to the stage, if I should say? And to be perfectly honest, man, I do want to see again this O line. And the O line to me, I'm not saying they had a horrible job, but for me, I think they could have done way better against that wide nine defensive line against Cleveland. And Wiley, he had I think he was the one that had a holding in the end zone that caused
That
the
safety.
safety.
Is that what happened? I did not see what happened.
And it was a holding call that caused the safety, and it's because
Got
now I'm
beat
gonna
like
be
a
honest,
in
I
the end
was
zone.
right, and I was like, was that Wiley again? And Cosme was really doing a great job. You would think when you have an anchor inside of you as a tackle that's holding his own, your job would be a little bit easier. But I guess
Yeah. Well, we'll see them wide nines. It's it's enticing and it gets the guy wanting to jump out there to get to him, but then that sets you up for an up and under, right? And the downside is when you got speed off the edge and they way the hell out there, the only way you can combat that is getting back vertically. Actually, one of the former teammate, and I'm gonna get him on the show. Clint Oldenburg was like, "Man, when you start breaking down film the O line and the importance of a vertical set, y'all got me talking football. Look at me getting in my stance.
Oh,
You get when you vertical set, right? They got to get back, and then if you just look at the loop that the D line has to run, the shortest way for the O lineman to do is just back pedal, go work straight back and understand he's got to come to you. But if you start to get out and rush and reach, that's when you get beat on up and unders. And Von Millers and Miles Garrett's, they make a lot of money beating linemen like that. But obviously, you get scared of speed. So that's the importance of trying to get back. I mean, it's not easy. That's why tackles get paid a lot of money, and Trent Williams is one of the best in the game at what he does. But that vertical set is going to would help Wiley. And I haven't even seen that play. But he got to get back vertically.
and you also got to think too, being that far backed up, your mechanics change as an offensive lineman. So I mean, of course, you don't want to give up any points in that situation, but I mean, sometimes as a career offensive lineman, my goal was to always protect the quarterback by any
Facts.
and my coach would be mad if I held a dude to tackle him if it mean my quarterback was gonna be upright. You know what I'm saying?
Hey,
So I mean,
at this point of the year, like it's the first preseason game. Like everybody's just not getting on the field. They're getting to, finally do their stuff against somebody else. And the other part about that first drive that I kind of had to remind myself, they going up against Jim Schwartz, 15-year defensive coordinator. Plus, he's been a head coach in this league. And Jim Schwartz is going to send some exotic stuff. He's going to be aggressive, and you're dealing with essentially a rookie quarterback. Yes, Sam Hale has redshirt rookie, whatever you want to call him. When I'm looking at it, I'm like, maybe that rush, like Sanders wasn't fast enough to get through his progressions, and they added a blitz to it. Like so, it's not necessarily the O line's fault. Sam could have got the ball out a little bit quicker, but like he lived to play another down. And he'll learn from that. And it's good that he's got to see that. And it's good he's going to go up against this Baltimore defense that's going to be moving a lot of pieces, and that's good for him. And I think he's going up against a good damn good defense in Washington.
Yeah.
So he'll be able to pick up his game faster as he goes through the season.
Yeah, they've been saying that the defense has been stacking some good days against the offense. And, I really don't read too much into it because I feel like, man, I feel like, and I don't know if you feel like this as well, but I feel like everybody is just like they need something to talk about. They need something to sink their teeth into. So, you know, guys throwing interceptions at practice, like that happens. That happens. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I seen a couple stats where they was like, you know, he was 12 of 17 and 3 picks. I'm like, bro, this is practice. Like when we start keeping practice stats, bro. Like,
Hey.
I mean, if
Hey.
that's the case, I'm keeping Pat and Go stacks. Pat, every time I caught the ball, they caught it and kept going. Like, I mean, but I just feel like everybody's looking for something to sink their teeth into and looking for something to kind of hang their hat on with Sam, kind of, and looking for reasons to be like, yeah, you know, I'm right for wanting to draft him, or you know, yeah, the team is wrong for drafting him and kind of putting it on him. Like I don't know, man. I just feel like right now it's still lion season, man. Like everybody's still trying to figure stuff out. And I try to like that's why like even last year on the show, we didn't talk about preseason that much. We talked about, you know, maybe some things we wanted to see, you know, but I found myself literally like watching the fourth quarter of the preseason game, like, man, you know, that look good. Like, I was like, bro, what am I doing? I'm like, I know I'm a junkie, but I ain't never been that deep into in the first preseason game, bro. Like, I don't, you know.
Well, see, that's because you love the team, but the thing about the stats at practice, I mean, it's kind of fun to track it, but you also like if you weren't there, we don't really know, right? Because honestly, there's times where quarterbacks are like, I'm going to try something here, right? Like, you know, I'm going to try to make this throw, or they've been working on something all day. Like I'll give an example, like you'll see the Dallas Mavericks in practice, they stay after and they'll work a certain drill. Let's say they do, you know, a couple crossovers into a floater in the lane, right? Little pick and roll, you do a floater as you're finished. And I see 4 or 5 guards go and do that. And then literally that very next game, somebody run pick and roll, they play it off, and then they floater, and then that's how they score. Like 3 or 4 people will do it. And I'm like, wow, it's interesting to see how quickly they work it and then they implement it. And that same thing happens in the game where like they're like, I'm gonna try this, I'm gonna see how this goes. And if you're gonna try something, try it in practice. Don't try that on third down in a big matchup. Like, let me just try this back shoulder. No. If you didn't try it in practice, don't be trying it out here. So you know, 3 picks.
That Patrick Ewing clip when he was silent. Do you shoot that in practice?
Hey, right? That's the truth. That's like EB's standard, right? EB's hard on people because he wants you to like get it right now. People, I've seen there's so many people who this is for life and just in ball. So many guys are just so good, but then they're like, oh, I'll get it in the game. You won't get it in the game. You're not gonna get it in the game, and you don't realize it because number one, if you don't get it in practice, they probably ain't gonna call it for you in the game. And then because they don't trust you to do it.
Yeah,
that's the thing. And from watching the tape last year, I watched the Dallas game so I could see Sam. There'd be a good play, and then there'd be a crap play. And for me, it looks like that was a crap play that you forced in there. Maybe it didn't get ran that well in practice anyways, but you just wanted to run it. Like, I don't think EB is gonna waste a play like that, right? Like, if he's like, don't really like the way Jahan did this, but I'm gonna try it anyway. I don't think he's doing that. That's not a recipe for success. You get in there and you like, all right, right, that's what they do. They'll work stuff and then they look at it and they say, what do you think? They'll be like, scrap this one. This one was not hitting. They didn't run it right. Apparently, we're not coaching it right. This just don't even waste time. All right, cool. We scrap that play. That's how you come up with a good game plan. It's not just like, here's my experimental bucket. I'm just gonna throw this one in here just because. Like, nah. If we ain't worked it, we ain't running it.
Was there ever a route that you tried in practice for you against a certain coverage or a certain type of DB? You said, okay, I'm gonna try it in the game, and it didn't work for you.
Man, I can't remember one specifically, but I do know like I would because the tough part about it is like a lot of times is you'll have something ready to run. Like I'm outside release him, and then I'm a fake here and I'm a break in. But then like he play outside leverage, and then you're like, damn, I can't really run the way I want to do it, right? So it's it's about having a counterpunch, right? You're like, okay, I want to, I'm coming up here to work an outside release because I want to work this, but you're not giving that to me. So now I got to work inside, but then I'm gonna still stack you and make you think I'm going outside. And I can work the same thing at the top, or maybe I just speed it at the top. And just, I don't know, there's so many games to that get played each and every rep. And I told my nephew the other day, I said, whatever you do, like you want to work it, getting off the line of scrimmage, you need to work every single time, like hard as hell at it. He's like, yeah, but the other DBs aren't as good, so I don't really work hard on those reps. I said, don't waste no time on the field. Don't waste no time on the field. I don't care if you're going against your little sister or a 2-year-old. You better route his ass up.
Get him that
You
work.
get what I'm saying? Or at least know you're working something, right? Like I'm like, I don't expect this person to stick with me past 5 yards. That don't mean I can't work something at 1 to 5 and then work something at the top of the route and sure as hell got to catch it. So that's the way I look at it. That's the way that I see EB trying to get his players to get used to, right? Not just being like, he beat me on that play. I'll get it in the game. No, you won't. No, you won't.
Hey, and you know what? And by the way, we got Anthony Armstrong here. If you didn't know, now you know. And of course, since you're here watching, go and hit that subscribe button because you never know who we might pull up with on next week's episode. You never, it might be Anthony again. You never know. That's why you got to pull up and make sure you watch it. But Anthony, you talked about Eric Bieniemy, and we'll get ready to wrap it up here on this. But we talked about Eric Bieniemy, right? And as long as I've played football, which won't long, longer than some of the other guys, but as long as I know football and even coaching now, football is a difficult sport, right? You got to have some edge. You got to have a little toughness to you. You got to be able to kind of be able to overcome some adversity, right? Story came out last week by our head coach, Ron Rivera. That's another story. That EB, some players complain about Eric Bieniemy coaching too hard. Now, I'm curious your experience with different types of coaches who may have. I mean, we all can admit who's coach hard, but a lot of us, some of us just able to deal with it, and not able to take in too much from it. But you can talk about some of your previous experience with some coaching that you may have had. And then when this story came out, what was your initial reaction about that news breaking last week? Essentially, making a run throughout the whole media about, we got soft players here.
Man, the first thing was they taking it out of context because they did not say when these players made these made these not accusations, but when they came to coach about it. To me, this is something that happened back in OTAs, back when they first got on the field, because that why would they wait till training camp? Hey man, he's coaching us too hard. You've already been coached for about 2 months. This happened back in OTAs. This happened when this guy first got on the field and they didn't know what to expect. Right? You got a new offensive coordinator that's showing up to change the culture and change the direction of this offense. Mind you, you've been 7 and something, 8 and something, 6 and something. You ain't won nothing. Whatever. It needs to be different than what the hell has been over the past however many years. So when EB shows up, he's got to bring it to the 100. He got to come out guns a-blazing, pardon the expression, but he has to come out full-fledged. And you can always back off from there, okay? Because I think that talking about Ron Rivera, he understands how to like, hey, go talk to him. He's raising these guys to be strong men. I think he's a perfect third party to kind of help sell these things. But my first impression, I'm like, if it wasn't 17 complaining about it, if it wasn't any of these vets that's complaining about it, then I don't want to hear about it. And have I had hard coaches? Absolutely. I've had people call me all types of names and been all up out my name. And there's on multiple levels of sports. But the one thing that I never would condone is if somebody put their hands on me.
Yeah.
And it happened one time in Miami. The coach was yelling at me. He grabbed my face and I said, "Don't put your hands on me." I said, "Just let go of my face mask." And I didn't touch him. We didn't have no fisticuffs or nothing because I obviously wouldn't have made it to Washington. because I knew where I wanted to go,
Yeah.
but I just knew like don't put your hands on me. You can call me what you want, whatever. But the one way you shut somebody up is by going out there and balling,
Yeah.
right? And we both know EB is from a time where people was gonna talk that talk to get either get you to step your game up or they gonna get you out of there. That's it. That's it. And if you upset and you feeling bad because somebody is being mean to you by how they talking, baby, this the league.
Hey,
Okay, this is the league.
hey man, I played
That's fine.
school and he called me all sorts of names. He made me forget we were cousins.
Hey, but the thing is like I'm sensitive to it. I got 3 boys now, and you try to help get them to handle emotions. And I mean, now everybody, I'll sound like the old guy. I don't think people want to fight no more. People don't want to fight. People want to get straight from somebody disrespected me, and it's got to be like this. And it's like, bro, somebody disrespected you, but you don't got to react to it. I don't care. I don't care. Like, what is his words gonna do? So, like, if he's on you, go make a play there. You want coach to shut up? Go score a touchdown. Quit misaligning. Quit dropping the ball. Don't fumble the rock. Those things happen. You get what I'm saying? And I'm sure that whoever was, I don't know, I'm just assuming that whoever was in there saying things probably he was on them because they weren't doing it the way he wanted it to be done.
Yep.
And that's fine. You don't have to do it his way. That's cool. Because there's a whole line of people that are waiting for a phone call that'll say, "Hey, coach, I'll do it exactly the way you want me to."
And you can yell at me.
And you can yell at me. I'm gonna put earplugs anyways, right? Like it doesn't matter. If I do my job, you ain't gonna yell at me. He don't yell at people who do a good job, right? You do it right. That's all. That's all I felt about it. So I think it's a non-story. I think it's the fact that they need a story. They needed something to talk about because everything's been good vibes. And you see how quickly that kind of died down. They made the statement and it was a whack little written statement, but whatever. And it's in the past. Like you're trying to find something. This team is in a good place right now. They're riding high, and that you can't really dampen what's going on right now. It's good vibes in DC.
I say this, and when that story came out last week, I kind of had to step back because I've coached youth and high school football for like, dang, it's going on 20 years now since I've been out of high school. So literally, like my football career ended in high school, and I took off my shoulder pads and picked up a clipboard. So been coaching, from 5, 6, and 7 years old all the way up through high school throughout that time. And me and my coaches kind of talk because I'm coaching an 8U team right now. Granted, it's not the same. However, the way we deal with players and children is definitely different than how we used to do it just 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of brought it back to this. Like, I feel like in the league, that's kind of where it stops, right? Or some of these big college programs, maybe that's kind of where it stops. But I feel like with this particular situation and where we've been, and I look back to that clip that they posted with Terry, like Terry wants to be better. You know what I mean? Like you said, we've been a middle of the road team. Maybe we need somebody that's going to be on there and be on our head about what we're doing, because we seen, Scott Turner was like, it felt like a golf course sometimes, out there having a good time. He wasn't vocal. And then you get this other thing where every picture I saw of EB was like, da 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 da, like and I'm like, yo. But I'm like, they need that. And coming from a guy that's been to a couple Super Bowls, won a few of them, like, I would take whatever he's saying as gospel, bro. Like, if you saying that what you telling me might possibly get me better and get me to the point where we might be playing for a little more than the back half of the division or mid-round draft pick, like we might be something good. I mean, I feel like you take it now. Granted, like you said, if you're doing what you're supposed to do, he's not gonna be on you like that.
Bingo.
I also think just with management and leadership. Now, this is the part where I did I wasn't on their side, but I kind of was listening to him. Like, EB also has to know how to manage that. That's even with my pedigree of winning all these games and stuff like that, some guys just can't. Some guys will break down even at that top level. You know what I mean? Good.
Yeah. Well, I think that with him, I think everybody's in a position for a reason.
Yeah.
Everybody's in a position for a reason. EB got this position for a reason. He got this spot for a reason. And if everything you hear is that he doesn't know how to relate to players and all this other jazz, then damn it, this is your opportunity to work on that. That don't mean you got to stop being a tough coach, but you got to change how. Maybe you got to be a velvet hammer, right? Because I understand he's probably up there
Hold on,
using
hold on,
very
hold
colorful
on.
language.
Hold up. That was a bar. Okay. That was a bar. I need you to hit that again. You
But
can't, you got to be a what?
a velvet hammer. You ever heard of that term? Yeah, man. They put the hammer inside of the velvet, so it's soft, but it's still heavy. It's like he's got to be a velvet hammer. Like it's nothing wrong being a hard nosed coach. I said this. Nobody complained when it was the Patriot way. Nobody complained when it's Alabama. Sure. There's kids that transfer out, and that's essentially what happened. In the league, you can transfer. Yeah, absolutely. We'll be nicer to you. And then they'll send you a little tap on the shoulder and say, Coach needs your playbook. And that's what's gonna happen. And could I mean, hey, I don't know. I'll say this. I'll say this before I get rolling. Coaches are gonna test you. Coaches are gonna test you one way or the other. We've heard the stories about in the combine where coaches ask a player who has a history of anger, and they first thing they do is they say something about their mom, and they want to see how they're going to react. And where is that right? Is that wrong? I mean, it just depends. But they're also like, if I'm going to give you all this money, and you're going to be out on the town, and somebody says something to you, are you going to lose your cool? If you're on the field and your opponent goes all the program on you and is what I'm saying, just giving you all this information because everything is out there and they can look it up, are you going to lose your cool? Can you focus and still run the route and you still get the blocking assignment? Can you turn that anger into execution on the field? Right? Like that's all of that stuff is what all this is. Like, well, he's got to treat me nicer. That's fine. Cool. I don't want to have to. I don't want to have to work with you then. That's fine. Yeah, I'll be nice to you. That's fine. But you're not gonna be on the team, okay? And then you're gonna be at home all mad because you got cut, and you over here trying to get mad at coach because he was mean to me. It was like, well, he was trying to get you to be better. End of the day.
Yeah.
End of the day.
You got to be coachable, man. That's one thing I've learned. That's one thing that was innately in me. I was always coachable, manageable, whenever it came to anything about learning. But I appreciate you being gracious with your time on AAA, if I can call you AAA.
Absolutely. You
But
good, man. You good.
I'm gonna leave you with this one question. I don't want to hold you too much longer. Where do you see this team at the end of their season? This
Man,
kind of team that is.
Man, I had this team, and this was the ending last year. I said this team can win 10 games and they can be in the playoffs. I think this is a playoff team. And this was before you saw Sam throwing the ball around with Diami and all of them and Terry and the crew. I just felt that the way things were building out, they have a chance to build a really strong team. And if Sam Howell does just a glimpse of what he needs to do, and I think the defense is going to show up like they were supposed to be. Improve on what they did last year. You get a healthy Chase back. Got Montez playing for some money. Cam Curl's healthy. This could be a very dangerous team. I think the Giants slide back. I think that you're going to have a chance to kind of fight with Dallas for that second spot. I think Philly's going to just kind of lead the way, but I think this could be a really good team. It's gonna surprise a lot of people.
No, I agree. Hey, Anthony, man, we thank you for for being in the building with us today, man. Before we get out of here, man, tell everybody where they can find you, what you got going on, how they can get in touch with you. If they trying to get some property in the Central Texas area, man, tell them where can everybody find you, man?
Man, yeah, y'all hit me up on Twitter. You see it, Rated Armstrong's right there in the corner. My website is agentarmstrong.realtor. So if you are in that DFW area, you're trying to get a house, need to sell something, lease, hit me up. I'd love to have a conversation with you. And always check out the podcast, Believe in Commanders, on all your favorite streaming platforms. The Believe Network YouTube shows it sometime as well. And we'll be here all year. I got some more stuff I'm cooking up to release out there for the fans to check out as well. So hit me up on Twitter for all that conversation.
Absolutely. And of course, everybody, we appreciate you tuning in to another episode of Breaking Command, a D Football Podcast. We'll be back next week with another brand spanking new episode to talk about the game against the Baltimore Ravens. And who knows? Maybe we'll have another guest in. Maybe not. But you got to pull up and find out. But of course, we'll catch you on the next episode of Breaking Command, a DND football podcast. Of course, peace and love.